I was standing in front of the dressing room mirror when I saw something that chilled me to the bone. My reflection was smiling, but I wasn't smiling. And then I heard that voice, the same one I'd heard the night I signed that contract. I told you that you'd come looking for us eventually. My hands were shaking so much that I dropped the glass of whiskey. The liquid spilled onto the floor like blood, and in that moment I knew the truth. I had sold my soul for fame, and now it was time to pay. But let me tell you something no one tells you about fame. It's not what you see in magazines, it's not the lights, the applause, or the money. Fame is a dark valley where every celebrity you know has left something of themselves, a piece of their humanity, a fragment of their soul. And I left everything. My name is Marco Valenti. Maybe you know me. Maybe you've seen my movies, listened to my songs, or followed my account with millions of followers. But what you're about to hear is the truth that no one dares to tell, the truth about the real price of fame. Because that valley I'm talking about isn't a metaphor. It's real, it exists, and it's full of souls like mine. Souls who thought they could have it all without consequences. This is my confession. This is the story of how I arrived at the cursed valley of fame and how I discovered that some prices are too high, even for the brightest stars. It all began 10 years ago. I was a failed actor, 28 years old, living in a closet-sized apartment in Los Angeles. I'd done 37 auditions that year, 37 rejections. I worked as a waiter at an Italian restaurant where real famous actors came to dine. And I had to smile at them while I served their $40 plates of pasta, knowing that they had what I desired most in the world. My girlfriend, Sophia, had dumped me 2 months earlier. I don't blame her. It's hard to love someone who is so obsessed with a dream that they can't see anything else. She told me I'd become a ghost, someone who lived more in her imagination than in reality. You were right, Sophia. If you're watching this, you were absolutely right, but I couldn't stop. Fame was like a drug I'd never tried, but was already addicted to. I watched the awards on television, read the interviews, imagined my name in neon lights. And every night, before sleeping on that old mattress I'd found on the street, I prayed not to God. I no longer believed in God. I prayed to the universe, to fate, to whoever was listening. Give me a chance and I'll do anything. Be careful what you wish for, because there's always someone listening and that someone isn't always who you think it is. The night everything changed was a Friday the 13th. I remember it because it seemed ironic. I had finished my shift at the restaurant and was walking home in the rain. I didn't have an umbrella, I didn't have money for a taxi, I only had my broken pride and my wet shoes. That's when I saw her. A woman standing in the light of a street lamp wore a red suit that seemed too dressy for that neighborhood. Her hair falls like silk curtains, and her eyes are so dark they seem to swallow the light around them. Marco Valenti called me by name. I stopped dead in my tracks. Who are you? I asked. But she just smiled. I am someone who can give you what you want, everything you want. Fame, recognition, the love of millions. All you need to do is come with me. I should have left. I should have run. But when you are so desperate, when you have fallen so low that you can feel the cold ground against your face, even he sounds like a savior. What do you want in return? I asked her. She came closer, and I could smell her perfume, something sweet and rotten at the same time, like dead flowers. Only your time, she whispered. 10 years of your life, 10 years of absolute fame. And then you come with me to the valley. I didn't understand what it meant. Then I thought she was some crazy Hollywood executive. I thought the valley was a metaphor, a spiritual retreat, something mystical but harmless. I took out my phone to call the police, but when I looked down for a second and looked up again, she had disappeared. In her place, on the wet pavement, was a black envelope with my name written in gold letters. Inside was a contract. The letters were small, impossible to read in the rain. But the heading was clear, temporary soul transfer contract. I laughed. I thought it was a joke. Some film student doing a weird project, But at the end of the document there was a line for my signature, and underneath, in red letters it said, "Sign in your blood and your deepest desire will be fulfilled before dawn." I was drunk with despair that night, drunk with failure. I took out a knife I had in my pocket, cut my thumb, and signed. The blood soaked into the paper as if the document absorbed it. And then something happened. The world stopped. The rain hung suspended in the air like frozen glass. The whole city fell silent, and I heard that voice again, coming from everywhere and nowhere. 10 years. Marco Valenti, enjoy them. The world started moving again. The rain fell, and I went home soaked, convinced I'd had a hallucination. But the next morning, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. It was my agent, a guy who barely called me, practically shouting with excitement. "Marco, I don't know what happened, but Steven Spielberg wants you for his next film. The lead role. They saw you somewhere and became obsessed with you. The contract arrives this afternoon. You're done, buddy. You're done." And so it began. In 3 months I was the face of the most anticipated film of the year. In 6 months my face was in every magazine. In a year one had won my first Oscar. Fame arrived like a brutal and total avalanche. I was unstoppable. Everything I touched turned to gold: movies, music, brands, millions of dollars. I got Sophia back. I bought a mansion. I had everything I had ever dreamed of. But there was something strange. Every night, exactly at 3 a.m., I would wake up with nightmares. I would see that valley, a dark place, surrounded by black mountains, where millions of people were shouting my name, but not with love. They screamed with hate, with hunger. And in the center of the valley was a figure in red waiting for me. 10 years, Marco. Time flies. The years passed like lightning. 5 years after signing, I was one of the most famous people on the planet. But something was changing in me. Something dark was growing inside. I started seeing things that no one else could see. Shadows that followed me, faces in mirrors that weren't mine, and worst of all, I started seeing others like me. It was at an awards ceremony when I noticed it for the first time. I was sitting next to a legendary actress, someone who had been at the top for decades. She looked at me with those tired eyes and whispered, "You signed too, didn't you?" It wasn't a question, it was a statement. I froze. She continued. "Can I see it in your eyes? That hidden desperation, that emptiness that no amount of applause can fill? How much time do you have left?" 5 years, I said without thinking. She nodded sadly. "I have 2 months left." And then she showed me her wrist. There were numbers tattooed there like a countdown counter. 63 days. Every person who signs receives the mark. Yours will appear soon. That night, when I got home, I checked my whole body in front of the mirror and there it was on my chest, right over my heart, red numbers that glowed faintly under my skin. 1825 days, exactly 5 years. And every day that passed the number decreased. I panicked, I searched for information, I hired private investigators, I paid millions to experts in the occult, and what I discovered shattered me. The cursed Valley of Fame wasn't just a name, it was a real place, a dimension where the souls of the famous went to pay their debt, a personalized hell where you eternally experienced the worst of fame, the hatred, the envy, the criticism, the loneliness, all amplified to infinity. But the most terrifying thing was that all the big names who had died young or mysteriously, many of them had signed the same contract. The list was endless. Actors, musicians, models, influencers, they had all sold their time for fame. And when it came time to pay, they simply disappeared. The media said it was overdoses, accidents, suicides. But I knew the truth. They had gone to the valley. I tried to break the contract. I went to priests, shamans, witch doctors. No one could help me. The contract was unbreakable. Once you sign it in blood, there's no going back. An old Tibetan monk told me, he said, the only way to save yourself is to find someone who I would willingly take your place. But, who would do that? who would sacrifice their soul for you. Sophia. I thought of Sophia. She loved me, or at least she had loved me. But how could I ask that of her? How could I condemn the woman I loved to eternal hell just to save myself? That thought consumed me for months. I became paranoid. I stopped going out, I stopped working. My career began to collapse, but I didn't care anymore. I could only think about the counter that kept ticking down on my chest. 1,000 days, 800 days, 500 days. It was then that she returned. The woman in red appeared in my living room one night while I was drinking alone in the dark. Her smile was the same as it had been years ago. Marco, my dear Marco, I see you finally understand what you did. You look terrible. By the way, fame isn't doing you any favors these days. What do you want from me? I yelled at her. She sat down across from me, crossing her legs elegantly. I just came to remind you that time is running out. 365 days, exactly, one more year. And do you know what happens when the counter reaches zero? You come with me to the valley, where all those who sold their souls for a few moments of glory pay their price eternally. There must be a way out of this, I pleaded. She bowed her head. There is a way, just one, but I warn you, Marco, the price of freedom is even higher than the price of fame. You need to find someone who loves you so much that they are willing to die for you. Literally, that person must willingly sign the contract in your place, taking your sentence, but that person cannot know the whole truth. If you tell them what will really happen, the sacrifice doesn't count. It must be done out of pure love, not pressure or manipulation. She got up and walked toward the door. Then she vanished into thin air like smoke, and I was left there in the darkness with an impossible choice. Let my soul be dragged to hell or manipulate someone who loved me into taking my place. The counter kept ticking down. 364 days. And each number that disappeared took another piece of my humanity with it. The last few months were a living nightmare. I watched the people close to me like a predator studying its prey. To his prey. Who loved me enough. Who would be naive enough to sign something without reading. My mother, my sister Sophia. The faces of the people I loved became options, possible escapes from my own doom. But every time I thought about doing it, every time I rehearsed the words I would use to manipulate someone, something inside me broke a little more. I looked in the mirror and no longer recognized the man who stared back at me. This was the true price of fame. It wasn't the valley, it was this. It was becoming a monster willing to sacrifice those I loved just to save myself. 100 days, 50 days, 30 days. I called Sophia. She came to my house worried about the news she had seen about my mental breakdown. Marco, what's happening to you? She asked me, with tears in her eyes. I had the contract ready. I had the words rehearsed. All I had to do was lie to her, tell her it was just a business document, get her to sign in her blood. But when I saw her there, with that genuine concern on her face, with that love I didn't deserve, I couldn't do it. I couldn't condemn her. If fame had taken everything from me, at least it wouldn't take this. My humanity, my last chance to do something right. I told her everything, every detail. The contract, the valley, the woman in red, the counter in my chest. She thought I'd gone crazy. She called a doctor, but I showed her the numbers glowing under my skin. I showed her the original contract, and in her eyes I saw the exact moment she realized it was all real. Let me take your place, she told me. Marco, if it's real, let me do it. I love you, I've always loved you, but I shaked my head. That's why I can't let you do it, Sophia, because you love me and I'm not going to let you pay for my mistakes. 10 days, 5 days, 3 days. The night before the counter reached zero, I was at peace. I had donated my entire fortune. I had apologized to everyone I had hurt. I had made peace with my fate. If I was going to go to hell, at least I would go as a human being, not as the monster I had become. And then, at 3 a.m. on the last day, she appeared. The woman in red, but this time she wasn't alone. There were other figures with her. shadows with glowing eyes. "It's time," Valenti called. "Your time is up." I got out of bed. "I'm ready," I told her. "But I have a question. Why? Why do they do this? Why do they offer fame in exchange for souls?" She smiled, and for the first time, I saw something resembling sadness in her eyes. "Because you ask for it, Marco. Every night, millions of people ask for fame, ask for recognition, ask to be loved by strangers. We only answer their prayers. The valley isn't a punishment, it's a mirror. It's where those who became in pursuit of fame see eternally reflected. And believe me, there's no hell worse than seeing your own rotting soul reflected forever." He extended his hand. "It's time to go." And I took his hand. The world faded away and suddenly I was there, the cursed valley of fame, an infinite place filled with faces I recognized, stars who had died young, legends who had mysteriously disappeared, all trapped in their own personalized hell, eternally reliving the darkest moments of their fame. But then something strange happened. A light appeared on the valley's horizon and I heard a voice I knew well, the voice of my mother. She was praying for me, not for fame, not for success. I was praying to God, the God I had forgotten, asking for my soul. And in that moment I understood something. The woman in red was right about one thing. We asked for this, but she lied about another. There is always a way out, not through manipulating others, not through sacrificing those we love. The way out is through genuine repentance, through remembering who we were before fame corrupted us. The light grew brighter and I heard another voice. It was Sophia praying too, and my sister, and all the people who had genuinely loved me, not for my fame, but for who I truly was. I don't know if I left the valley that night or if I'm still the I don't know if this is real or if it's my personal hell, condemned to tell this story again and again. But I know this, fame is a lie. It's a dark valley that promises light, but only delivers darkness. And the price you pay isn't just your soul, it's your humanity, your capacity to love genuinely, your connection to what truly matters. If you're watching this, if you're thinking about selling your soul for a few moments of glory, for having your name in neon lights, for hearing millions shout your name, let me tell you something. Don't do it, because when you reach the end, when the counter reaches zero, you'll realize that the only thing that truly matters are the people who loved you when you were a nobody. And by then it will be too late. My name is Marco Valenti, and this is my confession from the Valley of Fame, where celebrities pay their price in hell. And if you're listening to this, it means you still have time to choose differently. Choose love, choose humility, choose real life over the illusion of fame, because believe me, no amount of applause is worth eternity. If this story touched you, if you felt something in your heart, like this video. If you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel for more content that will make you reflect on what truly matters in life. Share this video so more people understand the true price of fame. God bless you, and remember, your soul is worth more than any number of followers, likes, or fame, much more. M.